Greetings, travelers.
Blue Mage
Hey,
guy?
chair.
Blue Mage?
How
Blue
Mage
Mage
guy?
done
You're
with
not
all
the
excuse me,
chocolate.
good sir.
Talk
Can't
about
help
Blue
but
Mage.
notice that you forgot
Blue
to talk
Mage.
about Blue
Monks.
Mage. Alright. I hear you. That or it's just the voices in my head. Blue Mage's thing in Final Fantasy XIV. The best way I can describe it is that Blue Mage is its own minigame within Final Fantasy XIV. If all the other classes are water, then Blue Mage is oil. It's a limited job that can't queue through Duty Finder and has to make pre-made parties if it wants to go into instances with others, although you can still solo things as an undersized party. So, why do people want me to talk about Blue Mage? The only real reason why anyone associates this with the rest of the game is that it's listed under the magical DPS jobs, like a wolf in sheep's clothing, convincing you that it's part of the game when it would be the same as listing Mahjong Maestro as a job. Mahjong Guide Win. It would make more sense for there to be a limited job tab where Blue Mage is listed, to drill the idea into people before they think Blue Mage exists in the same scope as every other job. Blue Mage actually exists to bait older fans of Final Fantasy games into thinking that they can play Blue Mage with their friends in current content. You can't. And so that Final Fantasy XI players can continue to jerk themselves off into a singularity. They're different games. Do yourself a favor and pretend Blue Mage doesn't exist. Nah, I know you're gonna play this garbage anyways. Probably because you want those nice class gear outfits. Look at the ZR on that. Holy shit. So what exactly is a limited job? Yeah. Nobody knows, even though I'm about to tell you. I already mentioned that it can't queue into Duty Finder like other disciples of magic and war, so the way that you level Blue Mage is by killing overworld mobs, which you get a ton of bonus XP for killing. You also learn a single skill when you unlock the job, and you have to unlock spells by watching an enemy use it. The rules for learning spells are as follows. A mob uses the spell that you want to copy, the mob dies, and you are alive when it dies. This is important to know because if you're running something with other people and the enemy dies and so do you cannot learn the spell. So you run around and level up by killing things in various areas. If you want to be a loser, real Blue Mages find a friend or victim to help them by first learning Flying Sardine in Eastern Lenotia by killing Apkalu. This is your only instant cast spell, which is why you use it to aggro mobs on this beach in Kalusia, while a slave, who you are not partied with, kills them for you. If you want to be efficient, the person doing the killing for you probably wants to play a physical ranged, and there are better pull patterns, but I don't really give a shit about that. This will level your Blue Mage up to level 70 in about a half hour at most, and level 70 is the current level cap for Blue Mage. Congratulations. You now have a level 70 Blue Mage with 2 skills and nothing else to show for it. Thankfully, you can go ahead and buy that level 70 Poetic Gear for casters, which will work for Blue Mage, and equip 2 of the same Poetic Rings, because you can do that. Now that you've been carried up to level 70, time to get carried some more. The first 3 rules of Blue Mage are as follows. Learn Aetherial Mimicry. Learn Aetherial Mimicry. And learn Aetherial Mimicry. To get this skill, you're going to have to run Pharaoh Sirius hard and kill an ad in this boss fight after it uses, you're never going to believe it, Aetherial Mimicry. This is a flat, permanent 20% crit and direct hit buff while playing in DPS mode, and also allows you to be a better healer or tank Blue Mage. It's core to literally everything, which is why I stress it so much. The next rule is to get Ram's Voice and Ultra Vibration. This will allow you to freeze an entire trash pull and instantly kill all of them with Ultra Vibration. Ultra Vibration can be obtained from the Kangamoto in the peaks. For Ram's Voice, you're going to want to get carried through Cutter's Cry. Some other instances work, but let's pretend like they don't. You can do it synced or unsynced. Why would you want to run content synced? Well, for overworld mobs, there's only a chance that you will get the spell after you meet the criteria described. If you're running instances unsynced, the rule is also the same. However, if you run an instance synced, the chance to learn the spell becomes 100%. The theory here is that the time it takes to run a dungeon synced versus learning the spell by turboing through it unsynced might average to be about the same, but just to be clear, there are no guarantees if you run something unsynced. Knowing my luck in video games, just sync that shit. I did Titan Unsynced about 40 times on my own before I got the spell just for comparison. That made me very happy. Welcome to the real hell of Blue Mage, though, finding people to help you out. If I could describe Blue Mage in one image, it's this right here. Allow me to explain the dilemma of Blue Mage. You are going to need skills to be useful, but you also need to run content to get those skills that make you useful. So you're going to have to be dead weight at some point in time. And once you yourself learn those skills as a Blue Mage, you have no reason to go and help other Blue Mages get those skills other than out of the kindness of your heart. Now, you don't have to all be Blue Mages to learn skills. You can queue with other people who are playing other jobs in your party to try to get through the dungeon or whatever content it is with Blue Mages just being there. But you do have to find people willing to help you run stuff to start getting guaranteed drops on important skills. While it is not impossible to find people in Party Finder, you might have to wait a little while, which is why I must explain my intrinsic advantage here. Most people playing this game don't have an easily recognizable name, nor do they have influence. So this was the wall that I hit before I said enough is enough, and I'm abusing my power to get the rest of these skills. For those of you who joined me in my madness and Party Finder on stream, my sincerest gratitude. You helped save me some serious time so I could continue to get pissed at Dark Souls 3 and also complete Psychonauts 2. Since most of you don't have my advantage, here's what you can do. You can play Blue Mage when it gets an update and everyone's playing it for 2 weeks before they get bored to shit and never play it again until maybe the next update, or you can see how far you can go while soloing content. I'd recommend trying to get every spell that you can get from generic overworld mobs. Just look up the spell acquisition list. Basic Instinct is your best friend for running content solo. And don't forget to check back every now and again with this NPC after you learn a bunch of skills, because you can get raw spells from this individual for just knowing a certain amount of Blue Mage spells. Most importantly, you will get Mighty Guard after learning 10 spells, which when paired with Basic Instinct is just a flat damage reduction to help you solo stuff. It's also the Blue Mage tank stance. With that setup, you can very reasonably solo most content unsynced intended for level 50, unless it's this piece of shit. All the dungeons at level 60 are usually doable, maybe the trials, but I cannot confirm that because I did it with a bunch of friends. It is possible to do level 70 dungeons solo as well, but you're going to have some primal skills to begin with, and also have to be pretty, dare I say it, decent at the game, and also have a chunk of patience. And 8-man level 70 content is where I didn't think I could push my luck any further, unless I already had the skills I was attempting to learn. Speaking of which, you can only use 24 out of the current 104 Blue Mage spells in the game at a time, so you should only have to learn what is important to know. You shouldn't have to learn every single spell anyways. It's not like they would require you to learn, say, 100 total spells to get 2 totems from that one person, which are essential skills for playing the job optimally. Let me drink some happiness juice real quick. What a load of horse cock. So here's what Blue Mage's spells mostly boil down to. Deal damage with potency of 220, or 220 potency for the first enemy and 50% less for the rest. Yes, that is it. An endless ocean of the exact same shit with little to no variance, and you're going to learn every single one of them so that you can learn Mantra Magic and Dragon Force. Those generic spells do have different elemental types, which is important for running the Masked Carnival, something that I'm not talking about right now. So while you are basically going to have to learn everything anyways, if you want some priority for the best skills to learn, here are the spells that are commonly used in most Blue Mage builds, to an extent. From overworld mobs, you want Triple Trident, Tingle, Bristle, Whistle, Sonic Boom, Bad Breath, Blood Drain, Peculiar Light, and Final Sting. From dungeons, you will probably want this little skill called Aetherial Mimicry, Song of Torment, Sharpened Knife, Diamondback, Devour, Condensed Libra, Magic Hammer, Chelonian Gate, the Rose of Destruction, and Cold Fog, which requires you to fail the ad phase on Mist Dragon, so, normal duty finder behavior. From Trials, you will want every primal skill anyways, but the most important variants are Feather Rain, Glass Dance, Shock Strike, Palm Cure, which is from an ad in the Moogle fight, Supernaka, the fucking Thought-ass Thoth skill, Stottrum, Phantom Flurry, and Night Bloom. Night Bloom is currently the single strongest hitting move that Blue Mage has. And finally, from raids, you're going to want J-Kick and Gobskin. And you can get Abyssal Transfixion from a Leave quest. Although to make dungeons easier, skills like Missile and Doom can occasionally have a niche to speed up skill acquisition. In addition to stuff that you learn from mobs, you also want skills that you can gain from totems by either learning enough spells or from completing the Masked Carnival. The most important spells from looking up how to beat Masked Carnival, which will require certain skills to clear certain stages, are Moon Flute for completing 10 of the 31 solo instances, and Angel Whisper for completing 30. And pretty much every skill that you learn from acquiring enough spells are all important, so stuff like Off Guard, White Wind, and Angel Snack. With all this information, you're probably feeling completely overwhelmed and more confused than when we started, which is why I originally said, just learn everything. As far as some actual builds go, I am going to reference a document that was linked to me on my Discord. I will also link this in the description and the associated Reddit post that it goes with. This gives you a very comprehensive list of not only spells, but also specific gear sets for those spell setups. I'm going to show a single DPS spell setup, which is the least confusing thing, explain an opener, and then simply explain some general concepts for Blue Mage Healer and Blue Mage Tank, and why some spells can be flexible. I'm not going to go over every opener for every build, simply because that would require me to talk more about Blue Mage than I planned, which was not at all. So for a DPS build, here is a picture of the skills that you want. Thanks again, document that was linked to me. And let's go over an opener. I've learned many of these in my time, and I finally don't have a ludicrous number of instances I can ruin by practicing in them. So I'm going to go against my grain here and use a target dummy. Pre-pull with Whistle probably about 10 seconds before combat, and you're going to precast with Tingle about 2 seconds before combat starts. Get ready for some GCD clipping. Cast Moon Flute and weave Jake Kick. Now cast Rose of Destruction and weave Night Bloom. Cast Triple Trident and weave Shock Blast. Cast Bristle and weave Swift Cast. Now continue to drift that GCD by using Glass Dance and use Super Naka 4 times in a row. Make sure that you don't cast anything between each cast of Super Naka. Cast Mantra Magic and weave Feather Rain, and finish with Phantom Flurry. Afterwards, Moon Flute will run out and you're unable to cast anything for a total of 15 seconds where you just walk around like an idiot. Now you know what a big old burst window looks like. So what about filler arcs? Just spam Sonic Boom and weave shit when it comes up. Use Tingle and Whistle before Triple Trident, and use Bristle on Mantra Magic, but also on Song of Torment. Note that the dot from Night Bloom will be overwritten by Song of Torment, so you want to use it in the minute before Night Bloom comes back and... fuck, where do you use Moon Flute again? Yeah, who fucking knows? Maybe it's every 2 minutes when Night Bloom comes back up? I actually don't know, and I honestly don't really give a shit. On top of that, how about who coordinates Off Guard and Peculiar Light, which do stack with each other, but you have to figure out which Blue Mage is taking which skill because one Blue Mage can only use one or the other. Actually, you know what? Let me stop myself a little bit before I go insane. Sonic Boom is the common filler spell that most Blue Mages use right now. It does do 10 less potency than just about any other filler spell, but it's actually preferred because the damage gain that you would gain is extremely small in the grand scheme, and the significantly faster cast time of Sonic Boom allows you to weave and have many more movement opportunities. Although you could use something like Abyssal Transfixion instead if you're trying to turn into a turret. Sharpened Knife is also a fast spell but has a much smaller range, as you could probably guess, and there are similar lines of reasoning for swapping skills in that are listed further in that document that I am referencing. For pure healing, your loadout is going to look like this, and while your opener isn't going to be exactly the same, you can probably guess what skills you are trying to cram in at the start of the fight. Just note that Gobskin is something that doesn't stack, so only one healer should take it. Have fun getting Palm Cure, by the way. Just read what your tooltips are. Toxic, I know. Unlike traditional healers, your big healing skills have real cooldowns and occasionally real mana costs. So taking Magic Hammer and Blood Drain can help for mana tile dysfunction. Ask your doctor about these skills today. Although something like White Wind is only really good if you can time the cast to snapshot your current health right before a raid-wide attack, and generally Stotrum is better. Maybe. A tank loadout will look something like this, and Devour is something that you have to cast every minute to increase your health pool, and Bad Breath is your raid-wide mitigation and also interrupt tool. Also, Chelonlian Gate is like the Blackest Night that you have at home, so you have to hold the channel to get the damage reduction and also the revenge hit. Through the Fire and the Flames is a big mitigation cooldown with a 2-minute recast time. Condensed Libra will probably increase your party's DPS as long as they have the correct coverage, which is why sometimes people will take skills like Blaze to make Condensed Libra more valuable. Just make sure that you slap on your tank stance that does have a cast time, and I also hear that Cold Fog has a very nice and readable tooltip that makes Paladin tooltips look like the work of Shakespeare. It's kind of like Third Eye, but it doesn't reduce damage and it has a cast time. And if you are using Final Sting, I think it goes something like Whistle, Tingle, Moonflute, and then you want to try to get something in like Off Guard and Peculiar Light and everything you can do to pump damage, including turning off your tank stance if you're a tank, and then Final Sting. It will still count as a victory if the last person standing kills the boss with Final Sting, but remember that you can't learn a spell if you're dead. Actually, but wait a minute. Why would anyone care to optimize Blue Mage content anyways? Is there any reason to do this? Yes, but actually no. See, for learning Blue Mage spells, dude, just fuck it. Just make do with whatever you have. Why would people actually start to care about stats and builds? To get the mount that you get for doing Blue Mage minigames hard mode. This requires you to run old Coils and old Alexander Savage fights, synced with no echo with a full team of Blue Mages, and it's not that easy. You are going to need spells to deal real damage, and even something like Diamondback will be used to cheese stuff, but it will require some actual coordination here and there. But honestly, if you're just here to unlock the spells and have fun, I would use resources like the one I mentioned as a guideline. A guideline for what skills are useful, what you probably want to cram into a burst window, and that filler is not the most important thing. Most people, myself included, can be curious of what it's like to try and get a good setup, but have no desire currently to try any of the actual bullshit Blue Mage content. And this is where I give you my actual thoughts on Blue Mage. I think it fucking sucks. It's really not a bad concept, but the execution is pretty terrible. Leveling the job is a pain if you do it the legit way, and it's a joke when you know where to grind efficiently. What I think would make more sense is to just have the job be given to you at max level, because the actual grind is learning the spells. Or at least just give it to you at level 50 when you start it. But you're always going to hit a wall where you can't reasonably learn every single spell by yourself. And you are going to need to try and make a party to run some trials or some raids to have a good chance if you aren't playing super smart. I am very stupid. On top of all of this, so many spells are incredibly bland, but you're going to have to get them anyways if you want to get the cool skills you get for just learning a certain number of spells. This is because originally they didn't want people to have to learn specific skills for their Blue Mage to be useful, and by proxy it made everything very unrewarding to learn. So now they do give you cool skills, but they're mandatory if you want to have your Blue Mage be actually useful. I think it can be kind of a fun minigame to do once in a while, but Blue Mage was pretty much dead on arrival. It's an experiment that only the most recent changes really felt like it has finally gotten defined roles, but they also had to make it more similar to jobs that already exist. And Blue Mage isn't something that you're going to play in the current content of Final Fantasy XIV. You play Blue Mage to do Blue Mage content. It's a game within the game. A piece of side content for those who want something that's a little different. Yes, some people like to use it to speedrun old content like Alliance and normal raids to try and speed up their current relic grind, but you better have those good skills if you want it to actually be fast. Ultimately, the process of getting all the spells really drained me, and it's not something I would desire to do anytime soon. Although, I have been humbled. So I try to help people out in Party Finder when I see a spell learning party. But if there is one thing I could say to the people out there, if you want to do Blue Mage content, go ahead and put some stuff up in Party Finder. And for everyone else, help these fucking masochists out. The Final Fantasy XIV community is pretty nice once in a while on the third Wednesday of January when it's not raining outside after gargling banana pudding. So maybe take a look in Party Finder for these idiots and tank for them in a dungeon, because someone's going to have to take pity on the poor, confused souls that decided to unlock Blue Mage and were deceived into thinking it had anything to do with the core of the game. Now let's get out there and still ask for more limited jobs, because they're just so great. So fucking great. So fucking great. I love Blue Mage, dude. It's just so good. So good.